In this video, I'll give you some tips that will help you reach the point where your social media accounts and your blog itself are combined. Some of these will immediately take a mediocre and poorly functioning Twitter account and turn it into something that is gradually able to gain momentum. So after you've followed through on the advice from the previous video and established a strong brand across all platforms, the next thing to get to work on is setting up these relationships. This is crucial stuff, not to be skipped. The first thing to do is to make sure your site has a Follow Us on Twitter button. Even if you're only getting a small amount of traffic to your website, you might be making a big impression on some of those visitors. Adding a button that makes it easy for people to follow you on Twitter or that links to your Twitter profile will give those people an easy and familiar way to stay updated and to get more of your content. A lot of websites will forego this. Too often, bloggers and business owners recognize the importance of letting their visitors share the content they find and enjoy, but they don't give an easy way to follow them. Add this function and make it prominent, and suddenly you have a way to stay in touch with your occasional visitors and to bring them back more often. This way, even if you were to ignore your Twitter, it would still grow slowly over time. Better yet is to add a Twitter feed to your website. Assuming your website is powered by WordPress, you can integrate this feature very simply by installing a widget plugin and arranging it to appear in your sidebar. The best widget for this task, in my opinion, is WP Twitter Feeds, which you can install from within the WordPress dashboard. If you're unsure about how to do this, then ask your web designers, but note that this is a 2-minute job and should be charged accordingly. Once you have a Twitter feed, you not only have made it easy for people to follow you if they want to, but you also have given them a little taster of the kind of content they can expect from you if they do follow. This also has the nice added bonus of keeping your website looking active by filling it with new content. We briefly mentioned social sharing buttons as something most people should already know that they should do. Now, just to reiterate, you should do this. Social sharing buttons give your visitors an easy way to share the content they enjoy on your website, even if they aren't following you. This means that their entire audience will get to see that content and might be introduced to your brand for the first time. If you have a WordPress site, the best plugin I know of for this purpose is Shareaholic, which again you can install from within the WordPress dashboard. It not only lets your visitors follow you on Twitter, but on other social media sites like Facebook and Google+ as well. You should link all of your different social media accounts, but one of the most important ones to look at is Instagram. Why? Because Instagram and Twitter work very similarly and are perfectly designed to go together. Briefly, Instagram is a social media channel where you can share photos with light effects and filters added. It's got lots of photos of sunsets, selfies of people working out, and shots of people's legs on sun loungers. But Instagram can also be very useful for marketers. For starters, it's actually larger than Twitter in many ways. At the same time, it makes similar use of hashtags, but it's actually more popular for them as people will enjoy looking at photos on particular themes. If you upload a photo of your hotel on holiday, for instance, then you might very likely want to see photos other people have recently taken of that same hotel, people who are likely staying there with you at that very moment. The great thing is that when you upload to Instagram, you can easily select to tweet to Twitter as well, and this will include the very same comment and hashtag while even showing a link to the image you posted. This way you can add a more visual element to your Twitter tweets, and people can feel as though they're getting an insight into your daily life or into the way you run your business. You should also link your accounts and ensure that if you post to one, that message will appear on all of your different social networks. So, for example, if you update your Facebook page status, then ideally that should appear on Twitter. Likewise, if you upload a new video, then you should have this appear on your Twitter account too. You can even set up WordPress to share new posts on Twitter. This is a great way to save time while providing compelling content to your Twitter followers. This feature is built right into WordPress, which makes the whole thing very easy. We're going to get a bit more advanced with this auto-posting in coming videos, but at this point the take-home message is that content you post in one place should automatically be shared across all your accounts where appropriate. Here's one more way to get people to sign up to your Twitter that often gets overlooked. Just ask them to. If you place a Twitter button in the corner of your website and you find that people still aren't signing up, then it could be one of two things. Either no one knows it's there, or you're not providing enough incentive for people to want to sign up. So instead of just leaving it to chance, why not say in the occasional blog post something like, "To stay up to date with all our latest content and special offers, please consider signing up to our Twitter." Something like this might be just enough to draw attention to your Twitter and get people interested. This works even better in video, so if you occasionally vlog, you should also make sure that you ask people to sign up at the end of each video. With everything we've covered in the last two videos, you should now have a good idea of how to set up your Twitter account for the best chance of organic growth and for synergy across your social media accounts and digital marketing efforts. Still though, all the synergy in the world won't make up for a lack of content. Ultimately, you need to ensure you are constantly filling up your Twitter account with new information that will make people want to sign up and keep following you. When we discussed at the start of this series what most companies were doing wrong and where they found themselves, we found that they hadn't done anything to help users find their accounts or to sign up. But the other problem was that they didn't know what they were meant to be posting. Here are some examples of the kind of content you might find for an EPOS company posting. Now, EPOS is electronic point of sale, effectively a checkout system for a shop or store. Let's look at this first one. Do you want to serve your customers faster? Try our #EPOS, #point of sale, #checkout. Or this one. Are you ready for the holiday season? Make sure your #EPOS, #software can handle your increased turnover. Or, we're offering a 10% discount to new clients for this month only. Sign up now, and it gives the URL. Or what about this one? Our EPOS software is faster and more reliable than the nearest competition. #turnover, #security. You get the point. So what's wrong with this exactly? Well, it will be quicker to ask what's right with it. Ask yourself this. Would you follow that kind of Twitter account? What would be the point? If you were an existing customer, then seeing adverts for something you were already using wouldn't exactly offer much value. If you weren't an existing customer, well, it's likely you'd just be frustrated by the constant nagging. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what would your customers want to read? Well, the first question to ask is, who are your customers? The answer in case of an EPOS company would be business owners. This is a fantastic niche. Business owners have plenty in common with one another and a very clear and obvious area of interest. In short, there's lots of potential for content that is going to be highly intriguing to this audience. Posts on customer service, on new business technologies, on social media marketing, on pricing, and a whole lot more. You can provide some real value here with business tips and advice, and your audience will eat it up. If you run a fitness blog, then you should provide fitness tips, workout advice, diet ideas, and so on. If you run a blog on the martial arts, then discuss movies and your favorite martial arts films. Think of each tweet as a mini product and try to ensure that the reader benefits from it in some way, whether that's by being entertained or by learning something. For businesses, industry news can also prove very popular, especially if it facilitates teamwork between brands, which we'll look at shortly. Another approach to take is a little less on the nose. Instead of directly discussing your niche, industry or service, you can talk about the lifestyle of people involved with your topic instead. In other words, you try to sell the idea that you're part of a community, and you post on subjects that might inspire or that your audience can relate to. This would work well for our EPOS company. It's likely they're a small team, and they probably work with a lot of other businesses that are also just starting out. This then puts them in the perfect position to tweet about their business. Maybe to show some behind-the-scenes photos of a new store that's setting up somewhere, or maybe to upload pictures of the team to Instagram at Christmas time wearing Christmas hats. This is inspiring and motivating for other young companies, and it subtly shows off what that EPOS service can offer without ramming it down everyone's throat. It can work even better for some commercial businesses selling useful things. Going back to the outdoors fitness company selling those running shoes, they can easily promote the outdoor lifestyle with Instagram pictures of people running on the beach or of hiking boots covered in snow. They could also tweet motivational sayings like, "Success is the last person to stop running." Likewise, covering something that everyone can relate to might mean something along the lines of, "One of the downsides of running, far too many clothes to wash." This is a powerful strategy because people will now feel like they're part of something by following you on Twitter. Instead of a company, you're now a movement and an ideal, and this is where social media can become truly powerful. There's another strategy that you can also employ with your tweets that will often prove popular, and that's to provide some kind of personal insight into your business or life. This works especially well for celebrities and for big bloggers. If you follow a well-known blogger, then you might find that you want to get some insights into their lives. What do they do in their spare time? What's their view on whatever? What do they eat for dinner? This sort of thing sounds trivial and boring, but if your fans really respect your content, you may be surprised at how interested they are in these seemingly mundane aspects of your life. It adds a new dimension to your content. It helps them to get to know you, and it builds trust and familiarity. So if you're a fitness blogger, don't be afraid to tweet a picture of what you're having for dinner. If you're a business owner, don't be afraid to post a picture of your busy commute one morning. Of course, it's important to gauge this correctly, and some of you will find it much easier and more suitable to employ this technique than others. If you're part of a multinational corporation, then you may find it's not appropriate to be too personal. If you run a small business, though, a few personal or behind-the-scene posts can help you to get to know you. But if you're a blogger in the same vein as Pat Flynn or Tim Ferriss, then feel free to be as personal and opinionated as you like, without offending anyone, of course. Another way to ensure that your Twitter is constantly full of interesting, relevant and quality information is to react to what's in the news and what's trending. Some people have described Twitter as being the pulse of the planet. What they mean by this is that the short-form content on Twitter and the large number of users makes it a great place for qualitative data. In other words, there are lots of words being posted in a format that's easy to interpret, and that way you can almost get the mood of the internet as a whole. Likewise, you can find out what's on the mind of the population by looking at what's trending, or which hashtags are currently being used most often. In all likelihood, if something big has just happened in the news, say a big celebrity were to have died, then hashtags related to that topic will be among the most widely used at that time. Eventually, one particular hashtag will rise to prominence and will come to represent that topic on Twitter. So, if an imaginary celebrity called Johnny Big Star were to die, then our popular hashtag might be hashtag RIP Johnny Big Star, or hashtag JB, etc. As someone who's trying to build prominence on Twitter, it's always a good idea to comment on these sorts of topics where possible. This is because you can be sure that lots of people will be looking for those hashtags and will be retweeting that content. What's more, once you have established your brand on Twitter, People should be interested to see your take on the matter. Just make sure you are careful not to be too divisive or offensive, unless this is your strategy, of course, and make sure that you only comment when you have something worthwhile to contribute. Note as well that if you comment on something that's too big, you can easily get lost in a sea of other comments. Sometimes it's picking up on the somewhat big news that will actually get you more coverage. Better yet, picking up on a story that's big in your industry can be a great way to stand out and get noticed. This way, the people who see your posts will be more targeted, meaning they are people who are potential clients and customers and who fall within your target demographic. Make sure that you keep one ear to the ground and do everything you can to stay constantly up to date with the latest developments. This might mean reading other blogs or industry newsletters. It might even mean following other Twitter users in your niche. Notice how useful it is when companies share news. And we'll continue this video in part 2. Welcome to part 2. If you run a business with a lot to do, then there's only so much unique content you can create in a day, and there's probably only so many witty things that you can think of to say that your audience will be likely to enjoy. The good news, though, is that a fair amount of your content can be derivative or outright stolen. A lot of business is about connecting a supplier with a consumer. If you own a supermarket, for example, then it will be your job to buy groceries at a low wholesale price and then sell them on at a higher retail price to your customers. You aren't creating anything new, you're just acting as the middleman and getting paid for it. Running a Twitter account is often very similar to this, and in many ways your job is now to scour the web for useful and interesting content, for news and stories, and then to share that with your audience. It might feel a bit odd that you're essentially profiting from somebody else's hard work, but think of it instead as finding an audience for something that someone else has created, while at the same time curating content for a market that you know will love it. That's a great service you're providing. And it just so happens that this process is also a great way for you to keep your Twitter account active with great new content, and it involves barely any work on your part. So make sure that you're continuously reading up on topics relating to your business. This means you should be reading other blogs, following other Twitter users, and reading magazines. Now when you find a news item that you think your audience will genuinely enjoy, you should share it with them. Make sure you don't keep sharing from the same place, and try to find things they probably wouldn't have been able to find on their own. If your blog is about fitness, then perhaps you might share the results of a new study looking at a surprising new training method. If you run a B2B business, then perhaps you might share the results of a recent survey on types of business. Note, though, that when you do share new content, you should always add your own comment on the matter if possible. This way, you personalize that link, and if it gets shared even more, then people will be introduced to your brand and to your ethos, rather than simply ignoring who shared it altogether. So, if you found a study on a new muscle-building supplement, your comment might be, "This could certainly help me to lose my spare tire if it works on humans." And you have the URL, and hashtag supplements, hashtag fitness, hashtag fat burning. Or, "Let's see how many con artists jump on this dubious study." And again the URL, hashtag snake oil, hashtag research, hashtag fitness industry. Either way, you're now not only sharing something that your audience will be interested in, but you're also doing it in a way that introduces people to your point of view and beliefs. Do note, though, that the posts I just mentioned aren't terribly clickable. If you want more people to take notice of your link and follow it, then you may need to sell the value proposition a little. For example, "It's early days, but the results of this study on mitochondrial function could completely change my pre-workout stack." The URL, and then hashtag excited, hashtag mitochondria, hashtag fat burning. This will grab more attention because it provides a little more information. We know that it's about mitochondrial function, and because it shows the potential implications and how they might be relevant to your audience. Doing this is important because it will make your feed look more interesting, and it will increase engagement with your content so that more people actually read it and come away with a positive experience. Don't go overboard with hyperbole though. If people think you're all hype and no substance, they'll quickly stop caring what you have to say. Just a note, but when you share a link on Twitter, you should shorten it, giving you more space to add your thoughts. You can use the website bit.ly to do this for you, and you'll find out more about it at bit.ly.com. Obviously, the very easiest way to share content on Twitter, though, is just to hit retweet. Again, you can do this while adding your own commentary, and it's a great way to encourage more discussion. There is one type of content that the average business gets right, though, and that's to talk about deals. This is something that surveys suggest followers do like to hear because, of course, it provides them with value in the money that they can save. This is also a great way to reward your visitors for following you and to make them feel special. If you have a product or service then, make sure you occasionally offer promotions to your Twitter followers, and this is also a good way to get retweets if your followers know others who might benefit from what you sell. Giveaways are even better. If you can give away a free ebook, a free drink, or something else for nothing, then it's bound to grab some attention and will win some goodwill. We'll be coming back to this in a subsequent video. All this advice should help you to start adding real value to your Twitter account, which will make a massive difference to the way you're seen by your followers and ultimately to how many people choose to start following you. This is far preferable to talking entirely about your products and services without actually offering anything in return. Unfortunately, though, some businesses are going to be resistant to this idea. This is a problem that many social media marketing agencies will face. They approach a company like our imaginary EPOS business and present them with a strategy. The problem is, the EPOS company thinks it's unprofessional to talk about business as a whole or subjects they feel are off topic. They don't want to showcase other companies by retweeting or sharing links, and they certainly don't want to be seen as having an opinion. Don't be that company. Playing it safe is actually the surest way to appear out of touch, uninteresting and uninspired. It might feel a little risky at first to appear conversational or to discuss a wider range of topics, but that's precisely what will make you interesting. What's key is simply that your business has a clear identity and mission statement. As long as you adhere to that at all times, being a bit more adventurous with your content will pay off. If you do choose to use an agency for your digital and social media marketing, make sure they're thinking along these lines.